Oh, and hello. Welcome back. It's Monday night. It is time to hang out and start our week right. By hanging,
Absolutely.
that's right. Hanging out with a good creator, hanging out with some good conversation. We have a great guest with us tonight. Mark Bell. Hello. Good evening. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well tonight. It's a little warmer here in Bloomington, Indiana than it has been, so that's good. So,
Oh, it's chilly over here in Virginia. So what's warm for you on your side?
well, you have to understand I'm Canadian, so it never gets cold here and it never snows in Bloomington, Indiana.
Oh man. Where how did you go from Canada to Indiana?
So I moved in '98
Mhm.
to uh to Grand Rapids for a little while, and then I moved to Indianapolis, and that was my first wife, and then I've stayed and have a new wife who I'm very happy with.
There you go. And comics, you've been on that journey for a while as well. Also love the little stack behind you. If that's Friday, that's pretty awesome.
Oh, it's a little yo, Friday. Friday is my Bible right now.
Oh.
That's a book that I like. You read Friday and you go, "Why didn't I do this?
Mhm.
What this is everything that I would think of next." And then Brubaker is like, "Oh no, 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 no. You think you thought this through, but I'm going to add this element and this element, and you're going to go, wow, that's awesome. I didn't think that was going to happen." It's been a while
Brewbreakers.
since I read a comic, and I was like, wow, that is completely original at that point in time.
Well, Brewbreaker's brilliant at that too. I really got into a lot of his stuff. Fatale, especially, was a favorite of mine because that has that noir detective. I went through a huge Columbo phase, and so like I was just chasing down books with that kind of vibe as well in general. And so Fatale came across my desk because I finished reading. I think it was the final cut. I want to say it's the where it takes place with the movie studios and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those it's knowing characters like that are so brilliant and whatnot. So is that like inspiration reading you're doing right now for Friday, or is that
Oh
enjoyment
no,
reading?
no. The complete Friday came out. Now I bought the digital and I bought the trades, and I bought the complete because it has some really nice pages in the back of scripts and things like that, and it's a little larger size. So the trades for that book are a little small
Mhm.
for old man Bell to see all the pictures. So that book has some amazing two-page spreads. So I wanted to get that.
Oh man, yeah, definitely. Who was the artist? I have it right over here too. I could look, I guess. Uh,
It is
Marcos Martin. There you go. Yeah, I have one of
Marco
the
Smart.
smaller
Yes.
trade right here. Yeah. It gave me a lot of Fargo vibes in general too. Kind of.
It's Twin Peaks mixed with Encyclopedia Brown with a little bit of X Files thrown in. And I'm like, yes, please.
Yeah, Twin Peaks fan as well. That's the pinnacle of all that. You know, even I don't know if you've read Grant Morrison's Batman and Robin series, but I always describe that as if David Lynch directed the Batman 66 show. And
Yep,
that's
I would say that was a good call there. Another there's another couple of books. I forget what the name of them is, but they're kind of like this. Oh, I'd have to look it up, but they're a series of books that are about a small town in Canada that have kids who are detectives, but it's very Twin Peaksy too, and I
ooh.
really like that.
If you end up recalling the name or if someone in the chat watching
No,
right now
I'll
is
have to look it up.
well
I will send you the name, I promise. I have
yeah.
2 of 3 of them. There's a new one coming out soon, so
Ooh.
and I love those, like, I love Encyclopedia Brown. I love that kind of detective story for kids and things like that. I think that those books are fantastic.
Oh man, yeah. And so I mean that takes us to a lot of places too. So where did your love for storytelling begin then? You have a pretty deep kind of enrichment of that, of what you crave to read, what you're looking for your entertainment and for your references and stories. Where did that all start up for you to want to start expressing that?
Well, it really started with it came out about with 2 things. One was the lack of decent television channels as a child because the television of the late '70s and early '80s was not the best stories. The Dukes of Hazzard, for example, was not exactly height of storytelling. Uh, and then I was presented with these colorful books in grocery stores and pharmacies that were comics, and these stories were huge, right? Both literally and figuratively. Like, I remember I don't know where I got it. At one point in time, I had the full size, giant size Muhammad Ali versus Superman. Now that
Ooh.
book by Neil Adams is just the art is just incredibly gorgeous. I didn't think that at the time. It was Muhammad Ali versus Superman. That was the point of it for me. So that sort of storytelling really caught my attention. And then I read a lot as a kid because the library was a place that I could get new stories all the time. And a lot of the time growing up, there was nothing on television. I lived on a farm in the middle of Canada, in the middle of nowhere. Reading was my escape. So I read a lot of books. Like, and I also read books like I'd read a Hardy Boy book and then I'd be like, I'm going to read them all.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
And and so I would read the whole thing. And like when in the ninth grade we were assigned and then there were none, and I was like, oh, this Christie lady's not bad at the writing. I should read all her books. And I read most of her books at that point in time. So I was always reading stories like that. And then came the urge to create those stories in any sort of media form I had. I was telling my wife about this the other day. I wish I had kept these, but I remember as a small child recording audio radio dramas that I had written that involved superheroes and the shadow and stuff like that. I wish I had those tapes because they would be absolutely brilliant. But we did stuff like that. We made movies. We started making comics. But the problem with all of that stuff that I'm jealous of kids today, and this is not a shout at the cloud. I'm jealous of kids today. I'm really jealous of kids today. They have so much available to them, but we didn't have those things. I went to the library. I said, here in the back of this comic is an ad for this book called How to Create Comics the Marvel Way. We don't know how to create comics. This book will tell us, can you please order this? And the librarian looked at me and said, that's a comic book. We can't have it in the library. I was like, it's a book about comics, but it's not a comic book.
Technically an
So
art book, you know?
we tried to figure out how to do it. And just as we were figuring it out, the '80s black and white revolution happens, and we're like, it doesn't matter how you do it. You can do it anyway now. So we were all part of that and the movement from drugstores and grocery stores to comic book shops, and that magical year of '86 of wait a minute, this Watchmen comics comes out every month for a year. This is too good to come out every month for a year. And DC sells this. I don't know about that. So we were in that, and then you know, jobs, college, marriage, kids, all that stuff happened. And I went to, do you remember? I don't, this might be too old for you, but there was a con in Chicago called Wizard World.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
went in 2001 and I was like, okay, I want to make comics. I want to write comics. There's a whole bunch of seminars on this. And I went to the first seminar and I don't know who this person was. I do not know who this person was. Everybody seemed to know who this person was. I did not know who this person was. But they got up and they said there are fewer people working for Marvel and DC as writers now than there are professional athletes. So if you are not honing your craft like a professional athlete, you are not going to make it to Marvel or DC. And I was like, hmm, well, I kind of write some stories on the weekends and at night, but I don't do that.
Mhm.
So that was both inspiring and downheartening, and things progressed. And then time moves forward. I get to 50 and I'm like, okay, uh, I need to get on the stick with some of these things because it's not that I'm going to pass away early. I'm going to live a long life. I'm very pleased about my health and all that sort of thing, but I do have a finite there's more before this date than there is after this date. So, because of that, I need to really get on the stick. And I knew that I couldn't draw. I knew that I didn't have the artistic skill to draw a comic the way I wanted to. So, I knew if I was going to write a comic, any artist that I met up with, I needed to have a script because the first thing they were going to say is, "Can I read the script?" Well, the first thing they were going to say is, "Are you going to pay me?" Which was not even a thing for me. It was, I was going to pay an artist and I wanted to have a script. So I wrote a script for Spirit for a graphic novel that had 120 pages. I got to tell you, it was the greatest epic of all time. It's amazing. I still have it. And I wrote that, and the that book came out of the idea of going through previews and saying there's still a lot of dudes in their underwear fighting other dudes in their underwear, while other dudes in their underwear watch those dudes. And I was like, that's, you know, I love my Batman comics. I love my
Mhm.
Daredevil comics. I get them every month.
Yep.
Give me some Nord dudes in their underwear fighting dudes in their underwear. Like that is, I I love all that stuff. But I thought maybe I should try to do something a little different and a little like me rather than that. Because I didn't have a lot of experience dressing up in my underwear and going out and fighting dudes. It really wasn't my thing. So I thought this should be female oriented
Mhm.
because there's not enough comics that are female oriented. This should be science, LGBTQ positive, diversity friendly, uh, have as much of a different vibe to it as possible. So Spirit originally started as it still continues as a group of young women who were on YouTube proving that ghosts didn't exist. And the hook is, what if ghosts did exist? So that immediately builds in a tension of between rationalization and supernatural and all that sort of thing, which I think is fun. And comics can tell stories about supernatural that that a novel doesn't have the same thing. Like
Mhm.
the visual makes it so different. So I wrote Spirit, the graphic novel. It was great. I started to look around, and there was a Kickstarter that I received the book for, called Crossing Ice. And I
Mm,
forget who wrote it. About young women playing hockey. And I was like, now wait a minute. If this can get kickstarted, my book can get kickstarted.
yep.
So I did my due diligence. I was like, okay, if I'm going to do a Kickstarter, I need to look at successful Kickstarters, especially successful comic book Kickstarters, see what they're doing, imitate those things. It's a pretty simple formula when you think about it. So, as I was doing that, I came across a picture. It was for a hauntings anthology. And this picture was of a 19th century ghost.
Mhm.
And that picture was the same picture I had in my head of my characters. I was like, wow, that's cool. I wonder who did this. So I looked up the person who did this and I'm like, okay, I'm going to contact this person on the internet. Now, I'm a 50-year-old cis dude contacting an unknown young woman on the internet.
Yeah.
So I had my wife read the email. I had my kids read the email. I was like, I do not want to come across as a bad dude here.
Yeah.
So I send that email off. And that email, and I don't know if you know this, but that email changed everything, because that email went to Melissa Caprione. And Melissa emailed me back in 20 minutes and said, yeah, we'll do this. And I was like, okay.
Amazing.
Melissa turned out to be incredibly professional. Her
Mhm.
art is beautiful. Then I find out she's in Indiana. So now you got another hook, right? It's in people in Indiana making a comic book, which when I was a kid, you had to be in New York or LA to make comics. That was it.
Yeah.
So we're in Indiana making a comic book about kids in Indiana. That's another hook. That's good. She's done successful Kickstarters. Okay, that's another check. All I need to do is raise 30 grand. Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
The big step.
How am I going to raise 30 grand to pay her and to print the books? Because I was going to let her the books, and I
Okay.
had written the book already. So I was like, okay, I've cut as much cost as I can, but that number still comes out to around 30K. And we had a really good friend of ours look at the script, and she said, this is a really good script. It's epic. I told you, it's epic. But no one's going to kickstart this because it's a brand new IP,
Mhm.
and you're not telling a complete story. In like, you can't just take the first 30 pages. It's not a complete story. You have to tell a complete story and make it like a Scooby-Doo episode. You have a start, a middle, and a finish. You can have a big bad that continues on into other episodes and issues and things like that. That's okay. But you have to tell a story from beginning to end. And I was like, sometimes you hear things that you know are right, and you have to accept that they're right. And she was right. So I took 120 pages and put it in 24, which was kind of crazy. There
Yeah.
was lots cut out, but I've saved it all. It may show up again. Lots of backstory and things like that. There was a whole
Mhm.
smuggling subplot. There was the entire climax that took part in an abandoned asylum. There's a lot of stuff that got cut out, but I think I have a more complete product that I can introduce people with. And
Mhm.
Melissa starts sending me these pages and these character designs, and I'm like, she's really, and I show my wife, and she's like, she's really good. I'm like, no, she's really good. And so we kickstart the first book of Spirit, and we get funded, and I go to Melissa. I said, "Where do you get your books printed?" And she says, "Comix Wellspring." And that's the next part of the story. So
Yeah.
from that, 5 successful Kickstarters later, I
Yep.
have 5 books. I have a second book now with
Hmm.
um, called Strange Ranger, with the art by a great young man, a young
Fantastic.
man you should have on the show, Janssen
Hmm.
Carbonell, who
Hmm.
is fantastic and fast. He's crazy fast. And he loves doing Strange Ranger. So I have Strange Ranger 1 and 2 and Spirit 1, 2, and 3. And the plan is for next year to do Strange Ranger 3 and probably Spirit 4, depending on Melissa's schedule, because she has taken off like a meteor, my
Yep.
man.
Seen their stuff a lot. Yep.
She
Hmm.
has a Dark Horse graphic novel. She's,
That's right.
getting
That's right.
invited to cons as an honored guest and stuff like that. I am so lucky to have got her at the point I got her, and I feel the same way about Janssen. Janssen was nominated for Ringo's last year.
Hmm.
His work with Herology, and he does a lot of work with Lifetime Comics, and just always does brilliant, beautiful stuff.
I mean, there's so many cool things there. I mean, you started especially talking about how you're just it's we're jealous of kids today of how much capabilities they have, and being able to do like your ideas about the radio shows and all of that. That's so capable, and people could just pick up their mics and record these shows if they wanted. They can make their own. I mean, podcasting the way we are now, doing these interviews, discovering things and learning. My local library is stocked of comics. I'm very close with my librarian because she's so great. She brings me on for events. She asked me for book recommendations so they could bring comics into the library. And if yours has an ISBN, they'd be happy to carry it as well. But it's all these things that you were looking for when you were younger are now just right here within like a palm's reach in front of us. And it's so trippy to think like that too, because kickstarting your comic, creating your comic, being able to do it from where you live and not having to go into one of these big cities to walk into the DC office and just hope you land a gig, because that's what a lot of people basically did. And the fact that you can do that just from where you're at, I think it meant that you weren't ready to be on that part of your journey in life too, which is so interesting too. A lot of us want to dive deep into our career in our 20s, early 30s or whatever, and it's sometimes you just need to live a little bit and experiencing some life. By the time you started making comics, you had a family, like that taught you so much and that gave you so much to speak about and an understanding of audiences and who to write towards. So what do you think part of those, what aspects of your life really got to influence you to create the comic that you felt you couldn't have created when you were younger? And do you think that if you got to make comics when you were younger, you'd be at the opportunities you're at now, or they'd be at the quality or caliber they're at now?
I wish I had like there is a notion that there is a lot of stories in everybody, but you have to get through a lot of bad stories to get to gems.
Yep.
And I wish I had written more as a younger person, because I think that hey, Saboteur Comics, that's cool.
Yeah.
I
Good guy.
think that I would have gotten through a lot of that stuff, a lot of those ideas that were bad ideas, that are not necessarily bad ideas, but I would have learned my craft a lot more. And
Yeah.
we spoke a great about craft. And learning craft is sometimes it's not a young person's game sometimes. Like there are those special people who you're like in high school and they know exactly what they're going to do and they're crafting already, and that's excellent. I wasn't one of those people. So I think that that I wish I had have gone back to craft. But again, a couple of things. One, I am completely okay with the notion now that if I get in a time machine, I go back. You got to kill Hitler first, okay? So we kill Hitler, okay? We do that. Number two, I go back to high school Mark, and I say to high school Mark, I'm making comics. I'm working with computers all day. I have what's basically a radio show with my wife, uh, with thousands of listeners, and I can make the music I want to make whenever I want to make it. He's going to go, "You did okay." And for high school Mark to say that 56-year-old Mark is doing okay, I'm okay with that. Second of all, I think it's super insightful of you to know that, like, with age and maturity and family, uh, it helps learn to tell those stories. Um, in essence, this is Spirit is the story of four young women learning how to deal with things that challenge their notions of the entire notion of reality, which is kind of what kids today are going through.
Yeah.
So that I think resonates, and that I learned from my own kids, right? And then the second part of that is Strange Ranger, which is in essence a young woman's first job. It's a park ranger in a park full of supernatural creatures, but she is capable and trained, but unsure of her abilities because it's her first job. Again, something that may resonate with
Yep.
younger people, um, that I get from my kids. I have four kids. They're all they turn 24 next week. So they're all 24. I have trans kids, I have gay kids, I have, you know, ace kids. I have a whole mixture of kids. So I'm always learning that sort of side to kids too.
Yeah. And I mean, that's especially as a parent in this day and age, and just this, universe and timeline we're in general, how it's more of a struggle than ever. And having a supportive parent and an understanding parent of that, it means so much. And I'm sure it means the world to your kids. And I think as they get older, they're just going to appreciate that more and more. And I mean, stuff like
Well,
that just baffles me why there's, anything to I don't know. The world today is bizarre, you know?
well, along with that, I understand I'm a 56-year-old cisgender man and white man, and I don't want to steal or take anybody's voice,
Mhm.
right? I don't want to do that. So in my situation, in my stories, the story is there is no story because there's lots of people who tell that story, like queer gender and blankets and all those other stories that are fantastic,
Mhm.
that is far more authentic to their life and a far more authentic voice than if I tried to do that voice. So my voice is, I think we should all get along. Let's imagine a world where we all do get along. So everybody gets along.
Yeah. And I love that because you're, extending a microphone in the sense of giving a safe space, but you're not trying to speak for them in that sense either. And I think that's a big difference between speaking for someone and giving them a safe space to enjoy something and to be in a medium, but also show the world that people are just people. I think when it came down to writing comics and looking at characters and dialogue and figuring out what fits for the story, I was like, it doesn't, a lot of people I know are afraid to, opposite sex writing opposite sex, any sort of things like that, a straight person writing a gay person, anything like that. They kind of get scared and nervous. But if you write them as humans and as people, you're going to find a way to give them a space and kind of give them words and let them flesh out, because that's all they are just humans, just people. And when you start to think of it differently, then you're starting to like transform them into something they're not almost.
And with working with Melissa, who's a gay woman, I always have that voice
Yep.
helping me and giving me feedback of like she's never had to say this doesn't work or you should change this, which to me means I'm doing
Mhm.
what I should be doing. So, and yet, I have at a con I had earlier this year, I had a young woman come up to me and say, "I've never read a comic where a girl kissed a girl, and I love that." And I was like, "Okay, I'm done."
With
And I sent Melissa a message, and she goes, "We're done. We have succeeded in doing what we needed to do."
No, honestly, I think it's something that I think is just as common as you are with your friend group. That's what's going to appear in your stories,
Yeah.
And that's where it made sense to me was that if I wrote a story where it's just a bunch of white dudes, that's not the people I'm surrounded with or who I interact with in life. Why would I keep it so isolated? You I'm If you're writing characters, write characters. Write about like your friends, write about people you know. And those are sorry, my cat is T'Challa. You're in the camera. Just write about the world we live in. And, there's one thing about creating a world. Of course, it's all a fantasy and whatnot. But it's one thing to also like make sure you're including those elements just like you would include like ground and sky and oxygen and other
Well, and
people like
I really so in Spirit 3, the most scientifically grounded character is the one that discovers Sasquatch,
Mhm.
which she has a problem with, and then finds out that Sasquatch is trans, and she has more of a problem with with the character being Sasquatch than she does with the character being trans. So I have that whole series of story, but then they're also being pursued by these kind of um like tech bro Sasquatch hunters, but they have a rift in their own little group. And like I think two of those characters become likable by the end of the story. And they start off as not likable, but then that happens, and I think that sort of change is possible, and that sort of like I like to tell happy stories because happy things happen.
yeah. A trans Sasquatch, I am sold. I think that's the coolest thing in the world, and it makes sense. Like it totally makes sense in my head. And I think that's another thing. I grew up with, I grew up with Kiss and Motley Crue and all
Yeah,
this. So like guys dressing as girls, when I questioned it, my dad said that's rock and roll. And I was like,
yeah.
that's rock and roll. Like I thought that's what if you're gonna get like the pretty girls, then you dress like a girl. That's what I thought. It made sense in my head. So like growing up, I never rock and roll, you know what I mean? And I think I grew up as a musician myself. I love seeing the guitars in your background. Um, uh, some of that even brings more acceptance into your life and more understanding and more fun and flair and just personality in that big sense too.
Well, and you learn from the text that you observe, and going back to what we said earlier, remember, Twin Peaks has David Duchovny not as a cross-dresser. David Duchovny is transsexual
Mhm.
in that story. She is referred to as she is a she,
Mhm.
and that was 90. Like, that was not seen on television at that
Yeah.
point in time, and just accepted and not exploited. It wasn't a
Was it a marketing tool of any
like, it
sort,
wasn't even talked about, which is the part I loved. And then the other thing that we really cut our teeth on was John Waters movies, and you watch
Oh, yeah.
enough John Waters movies, you're like, anything goes.
Hands down, yes. Oh man. Yeah, I mean I love that. It's part of it's just life. And I love that we're getting more stories like that. And I love that even now you're at a stage of your life and existence where you were able to find a collaborator to make this just more fulfilling, make more sense, bring more confidence to the stories to present. Like,
Yeah.
a big thing I always tell people too is just like, well, if you're nervous about a character you're writing, find someone to proofread it. Let them know if you're right or wrong. Like, let them give some feedback in that aspect. Be specific. Don't just ask for, like, is this a decent, like, be specific on what you're trying to do with this character and explain to the proofreader just so you're hitting the right marks, and that you could say something that is totally wrong and off, and not even realize it because you just don't know everything about another human's life, until you
It
step
is
in those shoes
important
and
to
do it.
have sensitivity readers, and all my books go through sensitivity readers.
Mhm.
Not for like, I write a lot of female characters. I don't wanna write something that doesn't come off right
Mhm.
or condescending in any way. I don't think it is, but it's always, always good to check. I'd
Yeah.
rather check because then I know. Then I know.
Yeah,
So
exactly. That's awesome. Well, and so also a big thing that caught my attention was you were saying this was a 120-page graphic novel, and you narrowed it down to, 24, 28 pages. What was the decision for that instead of breaking that up into chapters? And you're saying for an overarching story, like an episodic thing, but why not go in that direction of this is the end of this, or bring chapter marks to everything and break up
well,
into issues?
though a chapter has a beginning, middle, and end, a good chapter does.
Mhm,
It's still not enough. I think I needed to do a complete story.
mhm,
And so I took those elements um, that were the essential story, the very most important things, and then I cut another 20 pages after that because Uh, it's the old writer adage of killing your darlings. I have a folder called Darlings. I have lots of stuff in there. I don't throw anything away, but I keep a lot of stuff because that may show up again. That scene or that thing might show up again, or you might never use it, but it's it's not really taking up a lot of space. It's not, you know, keep it around. Keep that idea around. And that to, to the way Strange Ranger came about was I wanted to do another title. I wanted to do another title because I didn't want to just be the spirit producer. And I also knew that Melissa was getting really busy, and to depend on one artist uh, for a whole series, and that's your only series, is it's not a smart business decision.
yeah,
Now, I'm not going to have 5 series, but I, I wanted to expand to a new series. And so the weird thing that happened was I, when the pandemic hit, I wanted to beef up my programming skills. So I built a video game. And whenever I'm trying to do something new or come up with an idea, I'm always going to take a thing I like and another thing I like that don't seem the same thing and mash them together and see if it works. It's a great way to do creativity.
mhm,
So I had spent a lot of time during the pandemic playing Stardew Valley, which is a farming sim, 8-bit graphics. It is apparently you can do relationships and love and all that stuff. No, no, no. I'm growing turnips, and that is what I'm doing. I'm growing broccoli. I'm growing cauliflower. That's what I'm doing. Chopping down trees and growing things. That's what I was doing. And then the other game I played during the pandemic a lot was a game called The Long Dark. Not everybody's familiar with
mm,
The Long Dark, but if you're not familiar with The Long Dark, it sounds like the worst video game ever because you wander around, usually at night, in the snow forever with no quests, you don't have to do anything. You just have to survive. That's all you have to do. And there's no one else there. There's no zombies. There's no. The cold and animals is that's it. So I thought maybe I could combine these games into like a game where you were in charge of a really large park. And that's the other part of Long Dark is huge areas, right? Where like kilometers and kilometers of space for you to explore. So I took Stardew Valley and Long Dark and put them together in a park ranger sim that I called Strange Ranger because I wanted to have like weird stuff go on at the park. And it's funny to keep coming back to Twin Peaks, but there
I
was a
love it.
map. There was a map for Strange Ranger 1 as one of the rewards for the Kickstarter, and it has the Black Lodge on it.
Oh, it's cool. That's
So
cool.
the Black Lodge is in this park.
Oh, it makes me
Or at
happy.
least an entrance to the Black Lodge is in this park. So I was trying to come up with an idea, and my wife was like, maybe you should do a Strange Ranger comic. I was like, okay, I don't have any ideas. What am I going to do? And I pitched her 20 ideas. I pitched her like Warhammer 40K, but it's animals, like French bulldogs instead of people. And like I pitched all these different ideas. And she's like, maybe you should do Strange Ranger as a comic. And I was like, okay, I'll write up Strange Ranger. And of course, it turned out to be a great story. I really liked it. There was a lot to it. And then I was like, okay, I need to find an artist. And looking around on Twitter and Blue Sky and Instagram, I think I found Janssen on Instagram first. I found Janssen's artwork, and this is it. It is a prideful moment for me because I said to Melissa, I said, "What do you think of Janssen's artwork?" And she was like, "He's very good. He can't do spirit. Only I can do spirit." I was like, "Okay." No, this was for another book. And she goes, "Oh, he'd be great for that." And then when you look at Janssen's artwork and you look at Melissa's artwork, the thing I like best is they are different. They draw the characters differently. They have a different style to them. But they look like a Plague Doctor Press book. Like they
Mhm.
fit together. And that
Yep.
sort of magic is impossible to recreate.
Hands
So
down.
so I'm completely enamored by both of those artists. And so that sort of mistake or taking something that you had changed in one form and turning it into another is what led to Strange Ranger, and Strange Ranger has been a great success. I tell people this, and it's hard to understand this, but I wanted to make a comic book. I wanted to make a single book that was color and that was 30 pages. That was my goal. I knew that if I did the Kickstarter and it was successful, I would have more comics, but I just wanted to make the one. And like to my best friends from high school who I still talk to, we who are very great supporters, we are completely giddy that I have books in stores that are color that look as good as they do. Like I'm just amazed. Now I have multiple covers. Spirit 1 is in its third printing. Spirit 2 is in its second printing. Strange Ranger is in its second printing. Um, all the new books are going to have to be printed again. I, I cannot believe how amazing and how lucky I've been. I understand I'm a very small fry. I understand there are people who go to Comix Wellspring and order thousands of comics at a drop. That's great. The fact that I have ordered over thousands of comics from you guys is just completely stunning to me. I'm just so pleased by that.
And when you do your first reorder, you're just like, "Wow." Like, it kinda hits you after a minute too. You're just like, "I can't believe, like, that happened. I'm on round 2 now." And it
I-
gives you so much confidence, and it's so exciting getting that in.
I'll tell you what, I put in the order, like not to blow smoke up you guys' butts or anything,
I'll
but I
take
put
it.
in the order. It was second printing, and when they accepted the order, they sent back congratulations on your second printing. That's free. You don't have to do that. You don't. Nobody has to do that. But the people at Comics Wellspring have been so nice to me that I absolutely talk them up over and over. But I don't have to, because the books that I have are so beautiful because of the artwork in them
Yeah,
and the printing.
yeah.
The two things come together. I don't need to sell a printer. I just say, look at that book. If you want a book that looks like that, find a great artist and print it there.
Well, thank you. I might chop that into a little ad, I'm not gonna lie. Get you a little discount for that. Dude, that's so exciting. And I mean, again, it comes back to capabilities that you probably didn't have years ago. And then going from your experience at, Wizard World, being like, if you're not completely dedicated to this, you're not gonna be able, and it made you kind of feel that you wouldn't be able to make comics. Like, you
Yeah.
have to be at this level to even try to make comics. And that's so, it hurts, because even, we have another show. It's called Spilled Ink, and that's the live drawing show that I do every Thursday because I didn't know how to draw. And I had that mindset in my head for years, being like, I can't draw like Tony Daniel and Jim Lee and Greg
Yeah.
Capullo and all these people. Like, I'm not gonna, why should I give it a shot? And then years, pass and everything. And then I meet so many indie creators, and seeing their artwork and seeing what they do and how excited they are that, even if you just complete something that's bigger than anything, and just getting
Yeah.
it out there means more than any sort of quality, quote unquote, of any type. And that's what's important, is just doing it, doing the craft and trying your best and having the guts to go and share it with the world. And that's the biggest thing you could do. And so I did this show, and I bring on all my indie creator friends so I could showcase all the various types of indie art out there. So if I could learn live on air with all these people as I goof up and figure out how to draw stuff, and you could see all these magnificent artists and creators around my goofy artwork. It would inspire people, hopefully, and that's the whole point. Is just, we
Yeah.
just want to inspire people to go out there and give it a shot. No one should tell you that you have to, because dude, that's impossible. How can some, especially with the way the world has changed in terms of living and job necessity and just cost of stuff. It's different from in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. You can't live off of a part-time job and have an apartment anymore, like, and then spend
No.
the other time writing, trying to create your career. um so again, do you think that made a major shift for you to bring on the capabilities of creating your craft in general?
Uh, totally, with distribution on top of that.
Hmm.
Like just printing has gone down in cost so dramatically. And
And even more soon. Ta-da.
yeah.
But
And so printing has gone down, and then there's no there are quality gatekeepers that should be in place in any industry that make sure that certain things don't get through. I understand that. But there, especially in the comic books, there were too many gatekeepers that were, she's a woman, so she
Mm.
can't draw, or she can't write a series on her own, or we'll give her the kids series because she's a woman, right? And another thing that comics were really bad for was, they're a South American or Central American artist, they're cheaper, so we'll use them even if they're not as good as the artists we're paying here in North America. And so not only is technology better than ever, the fact that I can do layouts and things like that, not only is distribution better than ever, the fact that I send comics, I have sent comics to everybody, to every continent but Antarctica. That is
Oh,
stunning to
that's
me.
great.
And I do say on every podcast I'm on, come on, Antarctica. There's got to be somebody who likes comics there. I'll send you comics for free to Antarctica. I got to get the complete set.
Uh-huh.
Um, but in addition to all those technology and distribution channels and production channels that we have, we're also getting rid of those gatekeepers that say things like you're a woman, you're Latina, you're whatever, you know.
Mhm.
And so that means there's even more doors, and those stories, like, I got to tell you, I'm a little tired of the young white guy who meets up with the wizard, who has the father who's the bad guy, who he has to overcome in the third act, but they all get together at the end and they throw the ring in the lava. Like, we have heard this story a number of times, and I'm ready for some new stories. And the best part is there are women and gay people and um, people. Uh, the the comics coming out of Africa right now are super interesting.
Oh, wow.
Um, all those stories are new stories. So keep telling me, because I'm gonna get surprised and I'm gonna find new stories that way.
I think that's what also made so many good comics, like the early Vertigo books, so entertaining because they gave you these new, mythologies that we weren't really familiar with, and different cultural aspects that we were all used to Greek mythology. We're all used to the same basic stuff, but when you learn more about like Africa and Egypt and all these other places, and it's everywhere in the Middle East, you learn how like just how much more there is to like carve through. Um, you know, I think that's the coolest part about lore and mythology and just histories is that you're gonna learn a little bit about that essence of storytelling in that culture, but then that's gonna make you more interested to learn about the culture itself and go there and visit it and check things out and educate yourself and explore more. And as a creator and a writer, it doesn't matter what you're doing creatively, you should be wanting to explore the world and learn more about other things because that inspiration is just going to pile onto your stuff, and then your stuff is going to look more unique, quote unquote, but it's really just more educated, more influenced, more culturally equipped to this century, and you're bringing on and introducing people to different histories and wanting them whenever something makes me Google something and be like, okay, where did this come from, or what is this, and I have to learn a little bit. I know I'm in a good book or story or
Yep.
anything at that point.
Yep. Those are all great things, and that's always what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to entertain and maybe make you think a little bit differently about the world you're in, you know.
Mhm.
Like there's a character in Strange Ranger who is of basically a race of shape-shifting wood elves, for lack of a better term. And two things. One, she calls everybody who is in the park strangers because they were there first. And so every day to them is a stranger. So that's a different view, right? And then, second of all, as a shapeshifter, if you can change into anything you want, what does gender mean at that point in time to that character? They just don't understand, not in a argumentative way, but they just don't understand gender because they can be whatever they want. So they just are.
That's brilliant, actually, that totally makes sense as well. Dang, Mark, this has been probably one of the most the I don't know, probably one of the best conversations we've had here on Inspired Inc. So I really gotta thank you
Oh,
for this
you're
evening,
so
man.
kind.
This
You had
is
Sarah
no,
Cook on, you had
Sarah will be
Melissa
back on soon.
on. So,
No, this is
well, that which reminds me, I gotta pump the Zelda awards,
I was just gonna
go
bring that up. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Tell us what you know about the Zelda Awards, and I'll
So
try.
the Zelda Awards are named after a African American female comic book creator, and they are for women in independent comics. And a good friend of mine, Sarah Cook, who put me in touch with you, but who has always been fantastic and always been
Love Sarah.
just writes good stuff and is great and is such a fan and is such has such a love for comics. I love that about her. Um, she's on the board of directors for that award, and I know that you guys are a sponsor of that award. And I think that that is what I'm nominating Melissa for, because she should have like 10 of these things already. So
I love that. Yeah, the Zelda Awards are amazing. We sponsored them. I'm in communication with them right now. We're gonna be bringing a lot of the members of their committee and board of directors on the show. Fantastic idea, and it's what we've been saying all episode. When you Google comic book creators, it's just a bunch of just old white guys. You know what I mean? You get
yeah.
Your Will Eisners and Frank Millers and Scott Snyders, but it's like we need to represent what's truly in comics. And the Zelda Awards are doing exactly that. And I can't wait to see what they do. I can't wait to bring on all these creators on the show. Big reason why I love being able to control this podcast is I could bring on the people I want to bring on and highlight the people I want to highlight. And having a very diverse cast is my biggest goal since day one when we started this show. From Inspired Ink to Spilled Ink, I'm always just trying to bring on. uh, I guess I hate is having to use the word minority, but that's what everyone is kind of stuffed into for some bizarre reason when they're really
So
not.
yeah.
Like,
So the way I explain it is this. There are a lot of white guys in the comic book industry. I'm not interested in hiring any white guys. I hire myself, but that's it. So I only hire marginalized individuals. So Melissa is gay and she's a woman, which is still unfortunately in comics a marginalized situation. Janssen's from the Dominican Republic. The postcards that were for the second Kickstarter were all done by Latinx creators, as well as I've worked with Maru Davos from Argentina. She's done some amazing stuff for me. And I only hire marginalized individuals to do covers or stories or anything. I I've I've have no problem looking at your portfolio and going, "You're great, your art is great, your stories are great, but I only hire marginalized people, so I'm sorry, you're gonna have no trouble finding work, but it's not with me." So,
it's a good move. It's smart, and it's not like a marketing ploy or a tactic or anything. It's really just being like, you know what? There's certain people that just deserve this opportunity. And it's finding honestly what fits your brand best too. And when you look at your books, when you look at Plague Doctor Press and how it's all shaped, like this makes sense. It brings the life out of it. Like I love that. I think it's I know some people have qualms, but it's just like look at the other direction. It's the same thing. You know what I mean?
the single best part about that for me was I realized I had done it, and I was like, "Oh, I'd already done this. I might as
Mhm.
well just say that I'm doing it now because that's what I'm doing."
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
that's the best part of it, because not only did I have relationships built with individuals like that, um, and we could have a whole podcast about how to run the business and how to be a business person, but the I was already only hiring marginalized people, so I just kept doing that.
and I come from El Paso, Texas, on a border town. I'm mostly Mexican and a little bit of German, and so to me, hiring anyone from Latino Mexican heritage, it just makes my heart happy because it reminds me of home. And so it's also just like I realize what struggled with, what I've seen friends struggle with in the creative community there, and you know, giving them the opportunity and chance is honestly like it's crazy. You don't unless you really see it, and if you're in certain situations, you see how people are abused in certain ways or mistreated or just not chosen for specific reasons. You're just like, I just want to make sure they have opportunities that are being rejected to them that they're not even aware of or they are aware of blatantly in front of them. And it's just the it's weird because it just brings down the quality. Like, you're just like we said, you wanna bring in culture, you wanna bring in histories, you wanna bring in flavors. If you're not doing that, you're not really making art or comics. You want that color, in whatever shape or form it comes in. And you gotta mix the blender a little bit, you know? And
Yep.
that's way it comes out the best. Um, but Mark, this has been a great evening. So thank you for this.
Thank
This
you.
has been awesome, educational. I've learned a lot. I think our audience learned a lot as well. We had a
Oh,
great
thank
people
you
show
so
up.
much.
Why don't you give us any other shout outs? We have some of your links here in the bio,
So,
but
yeah,
anything else
Plague
you want to
Doctor
promote?
Press is the name of the company. You can buy any of those books available there, both digitally and print, and I offer free shipping because I don't ship a lot, so I might as well ship it for free for you. Um, and I have a mailing list if you want to get on and hear about more stuff. Now, my mailing list, I only send out one email a month. So if that's too much for you, I'm not the mailing list for you. Or if you're looking for emails once a week, that's not my gig either. You get one email a month.
We appreciate
And
you spotlighting this episode on your email. So thank you for that too, then.
excellent. And then I will be doing Kickstarters in the new year. I'm kind of taking uh not a break from comics, but I just need October and November are really busy times for me. So I just have stepped away from comics for right now, but I'm eager to get back to them. And I know Janssen is excited about Strange Ranger 3. So
I'm excited for all this. This is I need to catch up. I'm so hyped and thank you for this. We'll definitely stay connected. I'll send you a little invite for a virtual con we're hosting next, not next week, is next 2 weeks. When is Black Friday weekend? That's when it is.
that's
That's in a week.
yes, that's 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah, my
Yeah.
calendar's been crazy the last month and a half. We have a great virtual con we're working on with Sierra Nova Comics. Definitely will shoot you an invite, Mark, if you want to speak at some panels.
Oh,
But you
absolutely.
thank you for just for doing what you do with the greatest mindset, with the greatest heart, with the greatest understanding. And we need more creators like you. We need more people like you. And it's just so warming and welcoming to have someone with your mindset and doing what you do in this world right now. So I think it's appreciated across the board, from so many just so many people, man. So good job. I'm so
Thank
hyped to
you
check out
so
these books and
much.
support your stuff. And you're doing the right things. So thank you for being on the show. And everyone else, thank you for tuning in.
Yep.
We have shows lined up until I was gonna take December off. But we're gonna bring on a lot of the people from the Zelda Awards throughout this December. It looks like leading into the new year. And then New Year, there's so many new exciting things that are happening. And make sure if you haven't yet, sign up for Comics.one, sign up for Global Comics. We have some great announcements with POD starting off with them as well, and some other announcements hitting the new year. And so I can't speak too much about it, but plenty of content coming your guys' way. So much more than before. Things are going to be transforming in such a positive way. We're revamping some cool stuff. The shows aren't stopping. Everything's hitting in so many cylinders right now with CWS. So lots of news coming your guys' way. But until Thursday night or next week, thanks for hanging.